Thank you for joining us to mark the Workers' National Day of Mourning. On April 28th, we remember those who lost their lives or had their lives changed forever because of an injury or illness that happened in their workplace. On this day, workers, retirees, leaders, activists, and allies across the country come together to remember and recommit to protecting workers and preventing further tragedies and making every workplace safe and healthy for everyone. In 2018, 1,027 workers across the country died because of their job. Many more workers lost their lives due to related illnesses that aren't accounted by our workers' compensation system. This is unacceptable. Though we cannot hold in-person gatherings this year, the enduring message of Day of Mourning, to mourn for the dead and fight for the living, is more important than ever. The global COVID-19 pandemic has fundamentally changed the way we live and work. While everyone is affected by the crisis, workers are on the front line. Many are doing critical work without the protections they need to keep themselves safe. Right now, millions of workers who have been deemed essential are risking their well-being every day. Across the country and right here in Leeds and Grenville, many go to their jobs hoping that others are taking all the right precautions. We owe it to all the workers to make sure that they have the protections and support to work safely. COVID-19 does not mean we weaken those rights, it means we strengthen them. Workers know that if we wait until science is certain before implementing procedures and protections, many workers will pay the price. That's why unions fight for the precautionary principle, which maintains that the absence of scientific certainty should not prevent prudent actions that may reduce risk. As the world has faced this new and unknown contagion called COVID-19, governments and employers should be outfitting workers with all available precautions until the source of transmission is determined, not the other way around. That means ensuring that frontline workers have protective equipment they need and the training to use it safely. That means ensuring that all workers, including precarious and vulnerable workers, have access to job protections, adequate paid sick days, and income supports to protect them through this crisis. We all read the story of Keith Saunders, who was exposed to COVID-19 at his job at a grocery store in Oshawa and passed away at the age of 48. Stories like these underscore the risk that many workers are undertaking to ensure that essential services we all depend on continue during this pandemic. We are still reeling at accounts of care workers at the Pinecrest Nursing Home in Ontario, where a third of the residents have died and at least 24 staff members have tested positive for the virus. These same workers are now reporting that no precautions were being taken and sick residents were not being separated from healthy ones until after 16 people had died. There is great concern for many long-term care workers and so many other care workers about the threat of COVID-19. They are the ones on the front lines, and it's our duty to stand up for them. And now, many health workers are facing reports of a potential shortage of personal protective equipment. We owe it to all these workers to make sure they know their rights and those rights are defended. That means we need to defend our basic rights at work that are protected in health and safety statutes in every jurisdiction in Canada. Those three basic rights are right to know about the hazards in their workplace and receive the training they need to be able to do their job safely, right to participate in decisions that could affect their health and safety, right to refuse work that could endanger their health and safety or that of others. The right to refuse is not the first step to protect workers. This is a serious, sometimes necessary step that no worker takes lightly. On this National Day of Mourning, we remember the thousands of workers who have lost their lives in this country and many more whose lives have been changed forever because of something that happened in the workplace. The best way to pay tribute to these workers is to do our best to protect others. Once this crisis is over, We must commit to fighting for fair living wages, adequate paid sick leave, and proper job protections. COVID-19 did not create the inequities among workers, only expose them. As workers, retirees, leaders, activists, and allies, we must continue to come together to make sure every workplace is safe and healthy for everyone. On this day of mourning, and in the context of this global pandemic, we once again commit ourselves to mourn for the dead and fight for the living. Thank you. Many of our Leeds and Grenville Labour Council members work on the front line, from long-term care and home care through to grocery retail. Although the results of our recent survey indicate that many are very to extremely worried about the impact of COVID-19 on themselves, even more respondents indicated the same elevated levels of concern for their co-workers. Their greater concerns for others only emphasize the compassion with which these people go to work every day, often without being satisfied with the availability of an adequate supply of the necessary personal protective equipment. Now, if you wouldn't mind, we'll hear from Jody Fenlong.
Hello everyone, my name is Jody Verberg and I am the Secretary of the Leeds and Grenville Labour Council. I also sit on the Executive Board for SEIU Healthcare Local 1 in the Community and Home Care seat. On this day of mourning, I would like to take this opportunity to pay my respect to the family of Christine Mondegarian. Christine has been a member of SEIU Healthcare for 31 years. She is fondly remembered as a compassionate and caring PSW who worked at a long-term care home in Scarborough. Unfortunately, on April 15, 2020, she tragically lost her life to COVID-19. She leaves behind to mourn her husband and 2 grown children, as well as many family members. She also leaves behind all of her union sisters and brothers. When one member passes, we all mourn the loss. This tragedy could have been prevented if the proper PPE was in place at her work for her to use. Employers and government need to step up and start providing all workers with the proper PPE equipment instead of asking us to reuse the equipment we have. They need to realize how important proper PPE is to all frontline workers. As frontline workers, we are at the forefront and at a higher risk to contracting the virus. Lack of the supplies is putting us all at risk. Please, don't let another tragedy like this happen. Supply workers with what we and our families need to stay healthy.
Please join us in honoring a minute of silence to remember those who have lost their lives.